My name is Kival Nalgit, and I come from Ngaranyin and Wurawura land. That's my tribe. I used to grow up in Old Monjum. It was like an old missionary, going down fishing, hunting, and traveling, just going up and down the Gib River Road till we get a house in a place called Mount Barnett Station, Kupingari community.
My name's Abby Duncan. I'm from the UN Nation, New South Wales, and I live in Darwin, the Northern Territory. Living in Darwin's so beautiful because the culture's so rich. But from the UN Nation, New South Wales, where the culture is so lost and the language lost, and there's not many people that are willing to share their stories. It's so beautiful coming up here and listening to everybody.
And make sure that that change is maintained.
For the past few days, Cavell and Abby have been working on a statement for action as part of the annual Garma Festival.
My name is Sienna Maeto Wurumadi Stubbs, and I am a Yolngu girl from Northeast Arnhem Land. The activity that I ran was a space where I wanted to keep the environment free and safe for the kids to just voice their concerns for the future and also think about what they wanted to change.
We've been working on trying to listen to the students to formulate some kind of statement. And what the students have come up with is a statement for action. So tomorrow those students are going to take that forward and present that at the end of the Garma Festival.
And my favourite subject is storytelling.
While they come from different parts of the country, the issues they see in their communities are pretty similar.
Nice to know that you've got somebody there.
But one thing that keeps coming up is school.
So schools is definitely something.
School's tough. I think it's tough for everybody, but it's definitely tough in the Northern Territory. At my school in particular, middle school's very rowdy. I've had conflicts with teachers and a lot of violence and stuff. It can be quite traumatising for certain people.
But my daddy used to tell me, don't go to school, they're learning you about white things, but when I'm finished school on the weekend, go bush, learn about my, culture. And when I come back to school, I learn about white mob things, it's different,
Between 2019 and 2022, overall school attendance rates for First Nations students dropped by 7%. In 2022, the attendance rates for First Nations students in Year 10 was 65%, compared to 84% for non-Indigenous students. And while the number of First Nations students attaining a Year 12 or equivalent qualification has risen from 39% in 2001, it still sits at just 67%. These are all numbers that the Aussie government has committed to improving as part of its Closing the Gap targets. And while the numbers are improving, not many of them are on track.
Currently, there are two worlds that any kid in a community has to go through when attending school. It's the life that they have at home and then the life that they have at school. And because there is such a vast difference in both of those, it can be hard from going from your regular life into an environment that is clear-cut and solely for education.
So this can turn from just ideas here into policy, and policy means action.
Make sure you get the right adults in the right places. I think we spoke about how we really wanted elders to come into schools. I've got an uncle out at Kakadu and he would love to come into a school and teach young people the culture because it's so important to keep the culture alive. And there's no opportunities to do that for him.
Yeah, I didn't know much about my culture. I thought I was just a girl who was just going to school, I want to learn about my culture way, that's why every school should have that one Aboriginal traditional owner from the country, and telling them, telling all the white kids, again, learning them about our culture, every school should have it.
Having more Aboriginal teachers in schools and teaching Aboriginal studies. I want to learn from the people that live on the land who have lived on the land for thousands and thousands of years.
Students also want better support and pay for the Clontarf and STARS foundations.
STARS is for women, girls, and Clontarf is for the boys. And they're based in schools and they act as a support program for kids in school.
While this year's federal budget announced more than $30 million of extra funding for Clontarf, the STARS program missed out.
Personally, if it wasn't for STARS, myself and my sisters would not be at the school I am now. And you hear the teachers carrying on about STARS and Clontarf and you just sit there going, you don't understand why they're here and how important they are. Because if they weren't here, these kids wouldn't be here. They would not be as nice to you as they are.
Studies into improving education outcomes for First Nations students generally agree that students should be made to feel a sense of belonging at their schools and have their identity and culture affirmed. Experts also say Indigenous leaders should be involved in the classroom.
It's our turn to have our say and to be heard.
On the final day of Garma, the Youth Forum delivered their statement for action.
Allow us together to mobilise and to have our say.
They're hoping their words spark change.
We asked the students, who's this for? Who's your audience? They said all levels of government. So they want local government to listen, they want state government to listen, they want federal government to listen. And they're going to put that forward and they want these actions taken into policy and they want to see it translate into things that actually are meaningful in their own lives.
The future we want to see looks different. We need the freedom to grow. We need to learn about our culture and speak our language.
Hopefully they can listen and take in account instead of just sitting there and just pretending to. They can listen and hopefully take action and change things in schools.
I've really listened to Sienna and heard, what we need to change in the future. Every kid that lives, with a rough childhood, they should always have a better future. I thought my life was gonna be like that, but you look now where I am. I'm here in this beautiful Yolngu country, experience things, and going to that workshop, it was magnificent for me.
I feel like to make change and to create a space where Yolngu or Aboriginal kids can feel safe to learn, I feel like there needs to be an implementation of their culture in those environments and to acknowledge their existence as Aboriginal kids.